Tianxin traveled to a shattered universe and became the imprint of Tianxin. Just crossed over, he is the ruler of the heavenly way, possessing terrifying powers superior to the Great Emperor. However, this is not over yet. Tianxin has awakened and devoured the system of all worlds. As long as it devours other worlds, it can complete its own cosmic laws and continuously upgrade to a higher level of the universe. So, Tianxin led a group of ancient supreme beings and began to conquer the heavens and all realms. From the world of Zhu Xian, the world of martial souls, the world of exotic fire, the world of mortals, the world of Wang Mazi, and so on. Strive all the way into the 9 heavens and 10 lands, suppress foreign lands, level the heavens, and horizontally push the plateau of Ertu. Until the end, he led 3,000 immortal emperors to shatter the high-end wasteland. Countless years have passed, and suddenly looking back, Tianxin has already ascended to the top and become the ruler of all worlds. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1 Becoming the Heavenly Way, Awakening and Devouring the System of All Realms. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the cold and pitch-black depths of the universe, a diamond-shaped mark flickers and shines brightly. Surrounded by endless laws, countless avenues roar, overflowing with terrifying auras such as sacred, supreme, mysterious, and orderly. This is the imprint of the heavenly heart. No one knows who created it, its origin is extremely ancient, and it can even be traced back to the chaotic period of the universe before the mythological era. Throughout history, those who have achieved enlightenment need to integrate the imprint of the heavenly heart in order to uphold the position of the heavenly sovereign, ancient emperor, and great emperor. This is known to billions of living beings in the universe. I don't know how long it has been. The Tianxin imprint suddenly lit up, shining to the extreme. Driven by a mysterious force, it turned into a humanoid creature. The light faded away. The appearance of humanoid creatures gradually emerged. That is a handsome young man to the extreme. He was tall and long, with thick black hair draped over his shoulders, stained with endless divine radiance, like a true deity descending into the world. At this moment, the young man slowly opened his eyes. His gaze was like thunder and lightning, tearing apart a vast universe. Between the opening and closing of my deep eyes, there is a terrifying scene of the collapse of the sun, moon, and stars, and the chaotic evolution of all things. Am I traveling? After Tianxin had fused all his memories, a bewildered expression couldn't help but appear on his face. Yes, he has traveled through time. Just different from other travelers. As soon as he arrived, he had already stood in a world. Oh, no, to be precise, it should be standing at the pinnacle of a universe. He crossed over and became the imprint of the heavenly heart. In other words, he has become the ruler of the heavenly way in this universe. Tianxin was sorting out the vast memories in the sea of consciousness while clenching his fists to feel his own strength. He now possesses a power superior to the emperor. In just one thought, one can destroy an ancient star. This feeling of controlling sentient beings is extremely wonderful, almost wanting to make people sink into it. And right now. A sudden cold voice echoed through Tianxin's sea of consciousness. Ding, detected a host crossing over and matching the system. The system matching was successful, and the devouring the world system has been bound. Now introduce the functions of this system to the host. All knowing the heavenly way. The host transforms into the master of the heavenly way, and the divine power can cover the entire universe and perceive everything. Absolute right. The host has supreme power over life and death, and any creature born in this universe is between the host's thoughts and cannot resist. Swallowing the universe. The host can search for the coordinates of other worlds, construct 2 boundaries channels, and devour them to complete the integrity of the universe they are in. There are 2 methods of phagocytosis. Firstly, using force to push horizontally and forcibly seize the fundamental power of other worlds. Secondly, educate the living beings in another world, absorb the power of faith, and when the degree of faith reaches 70% or more, the host can take over and become the heavenly way of the other world. For every devouring of a world, the system will give a reward. Reminder. Using Method 2 to devour the world will result in higher rewards. A series of system prompts sounded in Gu Tianxin's sea of consciousness. It inevitably surprised him a bit. I have already crossed this height, and surprisingly, there is a system assistance. Not bad, really good. Gu Tianxin smiled and sighed softly. The functions of this system are easy to understand. It can help him devour other planes, elevate his own universe, and thus become the highest of all heavens and all realms. If we change to some anime world, the leader of the small heaven in the martial arts world, I'm afraid that it will not be so easy to devour other worlds. We need to travel from east to west and comprehensively cultivate our high-end combat capabilities in the world. Then they are creating conspiracy theories and other things, slowly infiltrating other worlds, changing their beliefs, and slowly trying to figure them out. But Gu Tianxin doesn't need it. The universe he controls. Although the laws of the Tao are incomplete, there is no immortal substance. But the combat power is really not built. Even in most fantasy worlds, they are top-notch beings. Speaking of which, I have to mention the cultivation level here. This cosmic creature specializes in the 5 major secret realms. Luanhai Secret Realm, Daogong Secret Realm, Siji Secret Realm, Huolong Secret Realm, Sendai Secret Realm. On the upper level, it is the realm of the 9 heavenly heavens and the Great Emperor. Due to the incomplete laws of the Tao, in each era, only one Great Emperor can preach and exist in the world, enjoying a lifespan of 10,000 years. Some talented emperors can rely on the elixir of immortality to live a second or even a third life against the heavens. But ultimately, we must still uphold the Tao in heaven, and it is difficult to truly survive in the world and achieve the realm of immortality and immortality. Some preachers, in order to avoid the erosion of time and path marks, will cut themselves and fall from the extreme realm of the imperial path. Then self-proclaimed as the source of gods, quietly waiting for the path of immortality that opens every tens of thousands of years. And these creatures are known as the ancient supreme beings. He was the strongest in the era of the Emperor. It is also the most advanced combat power in this universe. With a casual move, one can destroy a massive ancient star of life. With a single thought, one can easily wipe out billions of low-level creatures. In terms of combat power, absolute strength. Far from being comparable to an ordinary fantasy world. So, in Gu Tianxin's eyes, there is basically no difficulty in devouring other worlds. Those who are obedient will be taught higher-level cultivation methods, spread their beliefs, and merge into their own universe territory. Those who disobey will randomly send a supreme leader to destroy that world, and then forcibly plunder the origin of the world. Of course, if you can find the coordinates of a stronger world, you need to plan carefully. Immediately, Gu Tianxin's mind moved and a virtual panel appeared in front of him. The panel is as follows. Name. Gu Tianxin, Identity. Lord of the Heavenly Way, Realm. Above the Great Emperor, World Level. Single Universe Level, Current World Control. 50%, Kind Reminder. The higher the level of control over the world, the stronger the host's strength. Conversely, if the level of control decreases, the host's realm will also fall accordingly. Oh. There's such a saying. Gu Tianxin looked at the panel, his eyes flickering slightly. The level of his realm is actually of little use in this universe. After all living beings born in this universe, life and death are within their one thought, unable to resist, and belong to the supreme power of omniscience and omnipotence. If we need to attack other higher-level worlds in the future, it can come in handy. However, the higher the level of control, the better. After understanding everything, Tianxin withdrew his thoughts and his deep gaze looked around the universe, murmuring to himself. The first step to take now. Let's hold a meeting for the Supreme Brothers first. Chapter 2. Summoning the Whole Universe, Ancient Supreme Revival. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. Not long. A powerful and unimaginable spiritual wave erupted from Tianxin's sea of consciousness. Like a mental storm, it quickly swept across the entire universe. However, this divine idea is not aimed at all living beings, but only to the ancient supreme beings who lay dormant everywhere. Beidu, Burial Emperor Star. Undead Mountain Forbidden Area. Dark Magic Mountains stand tall and powerful, with an unparalleled grandeur. Every peak emits a terrifying demonic power, as if it were a strange and ominous land, where few dare to venture. Heron is one of the 7 famous life-forbidden zones in Donghuang. At this moment, the silent atmosphere of Mount Undead was suddenly shattered. With the unstoppable detachment of the Qingyun crystal block, a terrifying aura began to awaken, oppressing the void in all directions, shattering and disappearing. This divine fluctuation. Very unfamiliar. Who is calling this seat? A powerful ancient supreme deity lifted its seal and made a hoarse and unpleasant sound, shaking millions of miles of undead mountains, rivers, and the earth. Did you also notice? It seems that he is undoubtedly a master of the imperial way. But now is the end of the legal era, and the imperial law of the previous emperor has not yet dissipated. How could a strange imperial power suddenly emerge? Another ancient supreme awakened at the same time, his terrifying gaze piercing through the endless void, and he spoke coldly. Subsequently, no less than 2 ancient supreme beings awakened one after another. Even the creator of the undead mountain and the old emperor woke up and were amazed by the sudden divine summoning. At the same time, other life-restricted areas in Donghuang. There is no movement except in the ancient Holy Land. Within the 5 forbidden areas of Taichu Ancient Mine, Divine Ruins, Immortal Tombs, Reincarnation Sea, and Burial Island, there are a series of top-notch figures awakening from the divine source. Some characters are so ancient that they are difficult to trace. Once born, heaven and earth change color, and the great road mourns. Is someone summoning me? Is it the new emperor of later generations? He was able to forcefully send his divine thoughts into his own sea of consciousness through the divine source, and his methods were quite skillful. Well, since he's already born, let's go meet him. I couldn't understand his words, so I swallowed him and made up for the loss of my vitality. A terrifying figure claiming to be his true self woke up, like a deity whispering, stirring up order and the laws of the Tao. And at this moment, it's not just the Burial Emperor Star, nor is it just the Beidu Star domain. But rather, the ancient supreme beings dormant throughout the universe have been summoned and awakened from mysterious ancient lands and uninhabited areas. Someone saw a creature wearing a 9-dragon immortal robe and a feather crown fly out of a coffin and escape into the depths of the universe. Some people also saw humanoid creatures shining with immortal tears, green and golden light, walking out of a certain restricted area. The terrifying aura emanating from its body has caused many holy soldiers who have been passed down for generations to mourn, and threads of cracks have broken out on its surface, which is extremely terrifying. In a moment, dozens of terrifying figures shook the sky and shook the world, rushing out from various parts of the universe, transforming into dazzling streams of light, crossing billions of miles in an instant and galloping towards the same direction. I don't know how long it has been. All ancient supreme beings have gathered in the same area. And in this star field, no one is unfamiliar. This is the Violet Domain, located at the center of the entire universe. He once achieved great glory, producing Emperor Ziwei and several ancient emperors. But later on, the bloodline of the emperor declined. This star region has also been shattered by the saints who have conquered ancient roads throughout history. There are not many intact areas, which have become ruins and gradually forgotten by the world. What is the purpose of that person summoning the supreme beings of the entire universe to the violet star domain? All the supreme beings present were puzzled, constantly exploring their thoughts and looking around. The figures gathered here are incredibly powerful. Just standing there can make the avenue mourn and the universe tremble. And there are dozens of them, all former emperors and emperors. In a past era, invincible in heaven and earth, billions of beings in the universe kowtowed and worshipped. Such a grand scene is unprecedented and spectacular. If the news is spread, it will definitely shake the world and be recorded in the history of cultivation. Are you Eternal Heavenly Sovereign? The founder of Zhizimi. A supreme figure recognized the identity of the old man standing not far away. Rao was in his mood, his pupils suddenly shrank and he couldn't help but speak out. Once this statement is made, dozens of gazes converged one after another, and emotions such as shock, surprise, doubt, and awe appeared in their eyes. You should know that those who can be crowned with the title of Heavenly Sovereign are all terrifying figures who preach in the mythological era. From the mythological era to the current era of antiquity, no matter how long it may not last for millions of years. Ordinary supreme beings, even those who claim to be divine sources, cannot survive for such a long time. And the eternal heavenly sovereign, a person who has lived through 4 eras of mythology, ancient times, and wilderness, still has not perished. It's simply a living history book. It's just too amazing. Tianxin saw someone recognize his identity, but his face remained calm and unmoved. He just smiled lightly and said, "It's just a lucky escape." The heavenly sovereign who survived from the mythological era is not just the old man. Xiaoyao, are you right? Speaking of which, Tianxin's gaze turned towards a black shadow not far away. Long life, long time no see. A calm voice emanated from the darkness, without any emotional fluctuations. He also did not deny it, thus proving his identity. Xiaoyao Tianxin, founder of Xingzimi. He actually lived to this era. It's really unbelievable. Many supreme beings present had a strange expression on their faces, and couldn't help but exclaim in amazement. Being able to witness 2 living legends with one's own eyes, even those who have once preached for a lifetime, their long silent hearts have stirred up ripples. Some supreme beings are already pondering in their hearts. After this matter is over, I will definitely seek advice from the 2 heavenly sovereigns on the method of immortality. This temptation is immensely huge for them. After all, hibernate in the forbidden zone of life for eternity. What is planned is nothing more than the path to immortality and immortality. Dozens of supreme beings waited for another while. There is still no movement in the purple micro-star domain. Many people have become impatient and secretly explore their divine sense, searching for several major star regions around them. And at this moment, a golden avenue suddenly burst out from afar, spreading for billions of miles, like a condensed galaxy extending, illuminating the entire universe. Dozens of supreme beings present noticed and stared at each other. I saw a young man walking towards the golden avenue. He is shrouded in the laws of the imperial way, with a strong aura and a divine and majestic demeanor. Every step taken can shake the Milky Way and make the stars tremble. Chapter 3. Sitting and observing eternal times, self-proclaimed as the pioneer of heaven and earth. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. What a strong chi and blood. He is a contemporary person. Is this a new emperor? Many of the supreme ones present changed their faces when they sensed the arrival of someone's breath. It is almost impossible to preach in the late legal era. Throughout history, there has never been a precedent. Where exactly did this person come from? Is it possible that the imperial calamity of the 9 heavenly heavens and the Great Emperor's realm has already become a way? Dao Yu, who are you? Why convene the world's supreme gathering? A silver-haired old woman spoke first and asked in a cold tone. This is the ancient supreme being who lay dormant in the Xianling, named Xianlao, who preached in the early ancient times. It is said that she once discussed Taoism with the same generation as the Holy Emperor of Dozhan, and she has extensive experience. This statement also asked the thoughts of many supreme beings present. Cold and piercing gazes converged one after another, causing even the void to collapse and disappear for tens of thousands of miles. However, it was easily resolved by the imperial law swirling around Gu Tianxin, unable to stir up any waves. Gu Tianxin glanced at her and then turned his gaze to everyone present. In the next moment, he sat down in the void and spoke calmly. I was born in the most turbulent era of all time, long before myths. At that time, the universe was in chaos, and all things in heaven and earth were beginning to bloom, with wild beasts rampant in the wilderness. I rose from it, preached in that era, and became the first heavenly emperor of this universe. However, in this universe, the Tao is incomplete, the heaven and earth are incomplete, and even after endless years of hard work, one still cannot ascend to immortality. So, I will transform my own path into the imprint of the heavenly heart, sit and observe for eternity, and study the method of becoming an immortal. A word is thrown to the ground. All the supreme beings present were horrified, with an incredulous expression in their eyes. The man in front of me claims to be the first emperor since the beginning of the world. And the imprint of the heavenly heart was transformed by him. Such words are too astonishing. Even the Supreme One, who has witnessed countless grand scenes, cannot remain calm. Watching everyone's reaction. Gu Tianxin's mouth lifted a faint smile. He had already prepared his words before summoning the Supreme One. But it's not entirely a scam. At least, he is truly the imprint of heaven's heart. In today's universe, the supreme ruler of the heavenly way. Humph, Your Excellency's tone is too loud, isn't it? How dare to claim to be the first emperor? Moreover, the imprint of the heavenly heart has fused with all the supreme beings present here. If there is consciousness, how can we not be aware? This is a former supreme figure who created the forbidden area of Mount Bulao, the Stone Emperor. He has a muscular physique, a slender figure, covered in a jet-black armor. During his scolding, his eyes seemed to emit two magical lights, intimidating the soul. Gu Tianxin glanced at him, his face still calm, and spoke calmly. You, the Stone Emperor, the body of the Holy Spirit, preached in the middle of ancient times. At the beginning of his cultivation, he was guided by an immortal light and obtained the Stone Clan ancestral orifices cultivation method. Later on, his cultivation greatly increased, and he became brave and progressive. On the eve of Emperor Zhu, he was once chased by the great saints of all ethnic groups on the ancient path of the Holy Spirit. As he was on the brink of death, another immortal light descended to bombard and kill many powerful enemies for him. Am I right? The moment when the words fall. Shi Huang's pupils suddenly shrank, and his cold face was filled with an incredulous expression. You. How would you know? He never mentioned these things to anyone. After all, relying on that immortal light to walk out of the ancient road alive would undermine the dignity of the emperor. In the battle of that day, no creature survived. It is absolutely impossible for anyone to know. I personally did this, how could I not know? Gu Tianxin didn't care about his reaction. With an indifferent smile, he immediately seemed to recall an extremely distant event and spoke on his own. The lineage of the Holy Spirit is inherently powerful, but those who gain from it are destroyed by it. Before mythology, being constrained by heaven and earth, one could not preach. It was your ancestors who followed me for endless years, and it was only then that I made an exception to unlock the shackles of the Holy Spirit's lineage and imprint it on all paths. Do you understand? Upon hearing these words, Shi Huang was shocked and lost in his wits, and for a moment he was stunned in the same place. At the same time, the ancient supreme beings present were equally shocked. If it weren't for an extremely experienced person, it would be impossible to know such a shocking secret recipe. Moreover, forcibly imprinting a certain way among all paths. This is definitely the means of the Heavenly Emperor, far beyond what ordinary emperors can achieve. Is he really the first emperor since the beginning of the world? Thinking of this, many supreme beings turned their gaze to the eternal Heavenly Sovereign and the wandering Heavenly Sovereign. These two people are figures who preached in the mythological era. I must be able to understand some of the secrets before the myth, in order to determine the authenticity of this matter. The murky gaze of the Tianxin Heavenly Lord flickered slightly, staring at the figure sitting in a cross, and after a while, he couldn't see any clues. Finally, he spoke slowly and said, before the mythological era, the Holy Spirit was indeed unable to attain enlightenment. As soon as this statement was spoken, many supreme beings changed their expressions and almost half of them believed it. At this moment, an untimely cold voice sounded from afar. Even if you know about this, it cannot prove that you are the imprint of heaven's heart. Under a dark shadow, obscure syllables spread out, seemingly an ancient divine language, but after a transformation of divine thoughts, everyone could understand them. Upon hearing this, Tianxin just shook his head and smiled before continuing to speak. Xiaoyao Tianzuan, whose real name is Yungying. At the end of ancient times, you sacrificed the body of an emperor who was about to become a Taoist. Integrate oneself with his spiritual essence and replace it. Under the dark shadow, 7% is you, and 3% is him. Right. The words fell. The black shadow in the void trembled violently. The Xiaoyao Heavenly Sovereign was as shocked as the Stone Emperor. He arranged this matter seamlessly. Even the eternal Heavenly Sovereign knows nothing. How can this person know? Is it really many supreme beings present, upon seeing this, have already understood a general idea in their hearts? No wonder the Heavenly Master Xiaoyao never showed his true face to others. It turned out that he had taken over the elemental deity of a person who was about to become a Taoist, and the dove occupied the magpie's nest. This move is too cruel, just hearing it makes people shudder. At present, the ancient supreme beings present have almost believed Tianxin's words. In the next moment, someone eagerly spoke up and asked, Master, have you ever studied the method of becoming an immortal? You have participated in the transformation of nature and watched for eternity. Have you ever studied that method? Everyone's eyes were burning with anticipation as they stared at the figure sitting cross-legged. The former emperors and emperors, apart from becoming immortals and immortals, could never be moved by anything else. Whether it's the first emperor or the heavenly heart mark, it's not very important. As long as they can become immortals. Even if it means risking one's life, they will still rush forward. Tianxin saw that his goal had been achieved, so he decided not to play tricks anymore. He slowly stood up, stood with his hands down, looked at the starry sky in the universe, and spoke faintly. As long as you follow me, there is a way to become immortal. Chapter 4. Rebuilding the Ancient Heavenly Court and Searching for World Coordinates. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Quiet words resound through this starry sky. Many supreme beings present, upon hearing these words, had their eyes changing and remained silent. Tianxin was not surprised to see this. These ancient supreme beings were once preachers, invincible in one era. Even if he has already cut himself and fallen into the extreme realm of the imperial path. But the pride in my heart still lingers. It may not be easy to make these people bow their heads and not offer any practical benefits. As for killing chickens as a warning to monkeys, it doesn't make much sense to suppress them with the power of the heavenly way. After all, if we attack other high-level worlds in the future, these supreme forces are all high-end combat capabilities. Kill one and you will lose some strength. He gathered everyone today just to get familiar with his face first. Just randomly select 2 or 3 drivers. And when many supreme beings were all hesitant. Shi Huang, the first to step forward. His burly body bowed deeply, lowered his head, and spoke in a deep voice. The lineage of the Stone Clan's Holy Spirit has a great cause and effect with our predecessors, and it also has grace for me. I am willing to follow. With the pioneering work of Emperor Shi. Many hesitant supreme beings present also had a hint of inspiration in their hearts. The person in front of me is the first emperor since the founding of heaven and earth. Sitting and watching for eternity, one's achievements contribute to the transformation of nature. It's not embarrassing to follow him. Moreover, there is a possibility of obtaining the method of longevity. Compared to the Qingyun road, which has buried countless ancient emperors. Obviously, it's more worth them fighting for. Thinking of this, many supreme beings also opened their hearts and lowered their heads towards Gu Tianxin one after another, saying, "We are willing to follow the senior." In an instant, more than 20 supreme beings joined Gu Tianxin's camp. The remaining ones are still watching and silent. Very good. Gu Tianxin looked at the supreme beings who were bowing their heads to him and nodded in satisfaction. More than 20 supreme beings were willing to serve him, which exceeded his expectations. As for the rest, we will discuss it later. Anyway, he doesn't need that much high-end combat power now. In the future, you will be called Heavenly Emperor and be called me. Gu Tianxin spoke lightly. Yes, Heavenly Emperor. 20 or so ancient supreme beings responded in unison, their voices ringing like a bell, shaking the universe. As for you. Gu Tianxin glanced at the others and said, "Everyone has their own aspirations, and I don't insist on it. Let's all go back." Upon hearing these words, Changxing Tianzuan, Xiaoyao Tianzuan, and others blinked their eyes slightly. Although there was no expression of submission. But they all know that the person in front of them has too much influence. There is no conflict of interests, so we should not easily engage in hostility. Heavenly Emperor. I'll bid farewell. The words fell. Those ancient supreme beings bowed and retreated one after another. Crossing billions of miles of Milky Way in one step, they disappeared in an instant and returned to their dormant forbidden zone of life. Wait until everyone leaves. Gu Tianxin looked at the ruins under his feet, pondered for a few moments, and then spoke up. Now, the first thing you need to do. Recast the heavenly court for our emperor and create a throne. After hearing this, Shi Huang and his companions felt a chill in their hearts and quickly spoke up to respond with a drink. Remake the heavenly court and build a throne. This matter is easy for creatures of their level. After all, when everyone becomes a Taoist, they have all forged their own ultimate imperial weapons. The way of refining weapons is easy to come by. Next up. Each ancient supreme had a clear division of labor. They took out a bunch of immortal gold-level refining materials and carved various mysterious and complex patterns. Start building the supreme heaven in this dilapidated star realm. Roaming. Roaming. The violet star domain trembled incessantly, emitting deafening sounds. The terrifying laws of the Great Road poured down everywhere, making this star realm dazzling and extraordinary. Until half a month later. The grand voice gradually stopped. Looking into the eyes. A grand and majestic heavenly court has already been created by the Supreme Ones, standing in the center of the purple Vibrio star domain, like a ethereal fairy palace suspended in the sky. Above it, there are countless divine clouds flowing, and infinite fairy lights falling like waterfalls, shining to the extreme. Even the outer steps are made of chaos stones. Dark as ink, incredibly heavy, there are few weapons in the world that can break it. At the end of the staircase, deep in the sky, there stands a towering sacred throne. The whole body flows with divine radiance, presenting a colorful color. It is forged from 7 types of immortal gold. Dao Jie gold, dragon pattern black gold, feathered blue gold, divine mark purple gold, eternal blue gold, immortal tear green gold, and phoenix blood red gold. If it weren't for the absence of artifacts and spirits. This is definitely another extremely powerful weapon with unparalleled resources in this world. Gu Tianxin and the Supreme Ones entered the heavenly court one after another. The former's figure flashed and he sat on the throne. A feeling of controlling sentient beings and everything suddenly arose from his heart. Gu Tianxin's eyes drooped low, and his brows were filled with divine majesty. He looked down at the supreme beings below and spoke calmly. Those who do not claim to be divine and can survive in the world for 100 years are listed. The words fell. 20 or so supreme beings exchanged glances. Finally, only the Stone Emperor, the Lord of Reincarnation, the Lord of the Divine Market, the Supreme Light and Darkness, the Supreme Abandoning Heaven, and the Prison Emperor took a step forward. The rest of them, with a hint of shame on their faces. There is also a gap between the supreme beings. They are far less powerful than those 6 people. After cutting themselves, cracks appeared in Sendai, and the traces of time constantly eroded their vitality. If it exists for too long, a dark turmoil must be launched. Otherwise, there is a risk of falling. Gu Tianxin looked at the 6 supreme beings who were listed and nodded thoughtfully. Immediately, he waved his hand and said, "Everyone else, go back to the penalty area and self-seal, ready to stand by." Yes. Those supreme beings, although somewhat reluctant, dare not disobey the current heavenly emperor. After a response, they all left the heavenly court and returned to various ancient lands. After everything is ready, Gu Tianxin began his plan to devour all worlds. Immediately let out a deep cry in my heart. System, search for other world coordinates. Ding, searching for other world coordinates for the host. Coordinate search successful, there are 3 worlds in total. Zhu Xian world, Martial Soul world, Strange Fire world. The host needs to devour these 3 worlds in order to proceed with the next coordinate search, regardless of the order of devouring. Please build the 2 boundaries channel as soon as possible and complete the annexation. Looking at the illusory panel in front of me, Gu Tianxin's eyes slightly froze. He is not unfamiliar with these 3 worlds. The first 2 can only be considered low-level fantasy. In the world of different fires, the combat power will be slightly higher. But it's not much higher either. At best, it has the level of the 4 sages of immortality. P.S. Has anyone read this topic? The new book sets sail, seeking data support. Chapter 5. Divine Continent, coming to the Central Plains. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. After a moment of contemplation, Gu Tianxin had already made a decision in his heart. Prepared to start with the world of Zhu Xian. System, build a 2-boundary channel. The next moment. In a certain star region of the universe, the void trembles violently, and suddenly a spatial corridor emerges, completely connecting the 2 worlds. At the same time, outside the channel, there are threads of the power of laws transmitted from the other end. However, the power of these rules is pitifully weak. In just an instant, it was crushed by the myriad paths of the universe and dissipated with a loud bang. Gu Tianxin sensed his position with a divine sense, and then lowered his gaze to look down at the 6 supreme beings below. After pondering for a while, he slowly spoke up. Shi Huang, the Lord of Reincarnation. You 2 come with me to a place. Other supreme beings, the heavenly court is on standby. Upon hearing these words, Emperor Shi and the Lord of Reincarnation both felt a chill in their hearts and immediately bowed their hands in response, saying, yes. The other 4 people also nodded lightly without saying much. Next up. Gu Tianxin led the 2 supreme beings straight towards the passage of the 2 realms. Shenzhou Continent. Divided into Central Plains, Arctic Ice Sheet, East China Sea, Western Wilderness, and Southern Xinjiang with 100,000 mountains. At this moment, over a mountain range in the Central Plains. The entire sky was suddenly torn open by a huge void crack, like an endless abyss, constantly flowing. Standing on the ground and looking up, one can even see another vast star field through the void. A palpitating sense of oppression emanated faintly from it, terrifying. At the same time, endless spiritual energy from heaven and earth emerged from the huge void crack. This kind of spiritual energy is different from the free spiritual energy in the air of the central plains. Both quality and density are far superior to 100 times. The mist drifts like a fairy mist, almost liquefying into water. And it was only within a short period of time that this strange scene appeared. The vegetation in the entire mountain range began to grow wildly, as if the plants and trees had supernatural powers and were extremely supernatural. However, this grand scene also alarmed many mortals and cultivators around the mountains. There is such a miracle in the world. The spiritual energy is so strong that it almost liquefies into water. Even if we had gone to Qingyun Gate to seek enlightenment before, we had never seen such a grand occasion before. There must be some rare natural resources and treasures about to be born. Countless cultivators have fiery eyes, and such thoughts involuntarily emerge in their hearts. Immediately after, thousands of figures set off, rushing from all directions towards the mountain range. At the same time, this news also swept by like a hurricane, spreading rapidly. And the three major righteous sects located in the central plains, Qingyun Gate, Tianxin Temple, and Fanxiang Valley also quickly received news. Can make such a big noise. If there is a strange treasure, it will surely amaze the world. They naturally cannot let such divine objects fall into the hands of the demon sect. Otherwise, all the people in the world will face a huge catastrophe. After a brief discussion, the three major orthodox sects have dispatched a group of strong and elite disciples to this mountain range to explore the truth. In just half a day's effort, the mountains near the Two Realms Passage are already surrounded by dense figures of cultivators. In the sky and underground, various magical tools and spiritual lights flicker, creating an extremely spectacular scene. Among them, there are also some demonic cultivators with a mysterious aura of martial arts hidden among the crowd. They stood ready, staring closely at the vast abyss flowing above the sky. If it weren't for the fact that no treasures have yet flowed out of it. Otherwise, we would have already gone up and fought for it. And at this moment, waves of powerful aura suddenly spread from three directions not far away. People from the three major sects have arrived. Someone exclaimed in surprise, and a hint of fear flashed in their eyes. The group of cultivators in the sky also acted the same way, giving way to a passage for these three parties, afraid to engage in any conflict. That is the first peak of the Qingyun Peak, Tian Bai. Unexpectedly, even such a strong person was startled. Many people turned their gaze to the bulky Taoist led by Qingyun Gate, and said with a surprised expression. Tian Bai stepped on a red flame immortal sword. Although the figure is bulky, it also exudes a decent immortal charm, which is not to be underestimated. He looked at the vast abyss that had cracked open above the sky, his gaze gradually becoming more serious. Even with his cultivation, one can feel a strong sense of oppression from it. It's as if some wild beast is about to emerge from the abyss. It's incredibly terrifying. First, is there any exotic treasure to be born here? A woman with a beautiful appearance and dressed in a plain long dress asked. I don't know. Let's wait for it to change. Tian Bai glanced at Lu Sueki and shook his head, saying. Upon hearing this, Lu Sueki didn't ask any more questions. At this moment, the powerful figures from Fanxiang Valley and Tianxin Temple also approached. The leader of Fangxiangu is an old man in gray clothes. He is the second expert of Fanxiang Valley, Shangguansu. Tian Daoyu, Master Pukong. Have you ever seen any clues? Shangguansu's face showed a solemn expression, his gaze fixed on the two of them, and he spoke up. Tian Bai heard the words and still shook his head. The divine monk of Tianxin Temple is also unknown. He gave a Buddhist salute with both hands and said in a deep voice, this kind of scenery, unheard of or unseen, may be a sign of great calamity. The few people decided not to talk anymore when they saw that the discussion had yielded no results. waiting quietly in the void with the elders and disciples of their respective sections. I don't know how long it has been. Roaming. A sudden upheaval occurred above the sky, with deafening roars coming from behind. The void collapses on a large scale, the spiritual energy spirals wildly, and the winds and clouds of heaven and earth change color. All the cultivators present held their breath and gazed up without hesitation. The next moment, I saw 3 figures slowly emerging from the void abyss. The leader is a handsome young man to the extreme. His skin was crystal clear like jade, and his black hair was stained with a brilliant divine radiance, just like a true exiled immortal descending to earth. The 2 people who were half a step behind the youth were also not ordinary people. A person covered in black armor, with a cold expression, seemingly devoid of any human emotions. Just walking with steps gives people a terrifying suffocation feeling from the pressure of a demon mountain. In the crowd below, there were even some cultivators with good cultivation who couldn't bear the pressure and died on the spot. And that last person was even more eerie. His whole body was enveloped in a mysterious mist, making it difficult to see his face clearly. In the mist, there seemed to be billions of vengeful spirits roaring and roaring. With just a glance, everyone felt a chilling sensation of their souls being pulled apart and trapped in a cycle of reincarnation. Gu Tianxin's deep gaze drooped, scanning the surroundings before finally settling on Tian Bai's body, and he spoke lightly. Where is this? Chapter 6. As long as I think, with just a flick of my finger, I can. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Gu Tianxin's voice, although calm, was like thunder exploding in the sky. Many cultivators gathered below, their eardrums cracked and their 7 orifices were bleeding. In a moment of fear, I quickly closed off my 5 senses and dared not listen anymore. And at this point, the leading figures of the 3 major righteous sects, Shanghuansu, Pukong, and Tian Bai, were all facing a great enemy, with waves of cold air surging uncontrollably from the soles of their feet, and cold sweat soaking their clothes. Those who can cultivate to their level are naturally not fools. At a glance it was evident that the 3 individuals who emerged from the abyss were each terrifying in strength, so powerful that they almost exceeded their understanding of power. A person wearing black armor can easily kill a large number of cultivators with a single breath inadvertently emanating from their body. And the young interrogator in front of me just spoke softly, as if a grand and incomparable Tao sound was ringing in their ears. Even the primordial spirit was trembling incessantly, terrifying to the extreme. But in the blink of an eye, fear returns to fear. Tian Bai suddenly bit his tongue and woke up from that terrifying emotion. He arched his hand from afar and spoke solemnly. This place is called Kongsang Mountain, located in the eastern part of the Central Plains. Central Plains. Gu Tianxin thought for a moment and recalled the world map in the world of Zhu Xian. This Central Plains is probably the central location of the entire continent. The top sects of the Qingdao sect are also based here. Who are you? Gu Tianxin raised an eyebrow and asked again. At the head of Dazhu Peak in the lower Qingyun gate, Tian Bai spoke truthfully. Oh. Gu Tianxin smiled slightly. This is really a coincidence. Just as I arrived in this world, I met someone from Qingyun gate. And it is also a character with more strokes in the original work. Observing their cultivation, they should be in the golden elixir period of the cultivation system. So, the strongest one in this world should be at the level of the Yuanying period. Tian Bai, right. Lead the way, this seed is going to Qingyun gate. Gu Tianxin spoke expressionlessly. Tian Bai's face suddenly changed as he heard the words. The strength of this young man in front of me is terrifying. Even the palm cult immortal wielding the Zhu Xian sword may not be able to match. And whether it is good or evil is completely unknown. Bringing them back to Qingyun gate recklessly may bring disaster to the sect. But if you don't agree, he and several elders, as well as the lives of the disciples of Qingyun, may have to be confessed here. For a moment, Tianbai fell into a dilemma, and a thin sweat couldn't help but rise from his forehead. Meanwhile, Lu Sueki and several elders on the side also sensed a strong crisis, and their faces turned pale with fear. You don't have to worry that we will be detrimental to your Qingyun gate. As long as we think, we can destroy your world in a blink of an eye. Gu Tianxin saw Tianbai's doubts in his heart and just smiled calmly. Still speaking in the calmest tone, he made a stunning statement. What? Can the world be destroyed with just a flick of a finger? The people from the three major sects, including Shenghuansu, Pukong, and Tianbai, who were present, were even more shocked when they heard this casual remark. If this statement comes from other populations, anyone would think it's foolish nonsense and foolish dreams. But what comes from the young people in front of us is a different story. I really have the confidence and courage to be invincible in the world. It's hard not to believe. Who are they, after all, sacred? How could one possess such terrifying power? Lu Sueki's pretty face was pale and her expression was stunned. It was as if the faith in the Tao that I had been pursuing for many years suddenly collapsed, making me feel lost and disoriented. At this moment, Tianbai dared not continue to struggle in his heart. He gritted his head and said, "Okay, I'll take your excellency to Qingyun Gate." After speaking, he gave a glance to the elders and disciples behind him, each wielding a spirit sword and heading towards the direction of Qingyun Gate in a grand manner. Gu Tianxin and his three companions followed behind calmly. Shi Huang, the Lord of Reincarnation. Can you two breathe a little more? Gu Tianxin walked slowly in the void, catching a glimpse of the two supreme beings behind him. Heavenly Emperor, we have already self-proclaimed the 5 secret realms, and we really can't restrain ourselves anymore. Shi Huang and the Lord of Reincarnation felt very helpless and spoke in response. Before coming, the Heavenly Emperor had already informed them that they were going to a lower world. So I deliberately sealed all of my own breath. I just didn't expect that the people here are so weak. In terms of Taoism, there may still be some level of proficiency. But the path of the physical body is completely devoid of cultivation. Even without revealing one's cultivation, it is no different from ants and can easily kill a large area. Well, that's it. Gu Tianxin waved his hand but didn't force anything. After all, these two are both former imperial masters and do not belong to this era. We need to retain some strength to fight against the traces of time and maintain the stability of Sendai. It is impossible to completely seal it off. It seems that next time you enter this low-level plane, bringing a few saints is enough. Carrying the highest authority is truly overusing one's abilities. A few hours later, Tianbai and others finally returned to Qingyun Gate with great anxiety. Before returning, he had already conveyed the situation here to the senior teacher, Daoxianjinren, to prepare the latter mentally and not do anything to anger these mysterious powerhouses. And when Daoxianjinren received the summons, he dared not take it lightly at all. He gathered the heads of each peak early and stood outside the mountain gate to welcome these unwelcome guests. I am the leader of the Qingyun sect and the Taoist priest. I have met a few seniors. Daoxianjinren was dressed in a dark green Taoist robe, with a clear and ancient appearance, long eyebrows and drooping shoulders, exuding a somewhat ethereal aura. When he saw Tianbai and the 3 disciples following behind him, his eyes suddenly froze, and he quickly took a few steps forward and saluted as a cultivator. I wanted to call the other person a Taoist friend, but suddenly felt it was inappropriate, so I blurted out that senior. After all, looking at the entire continent of China, there are almost none that can make him be called a senior by the Daoxianjinren. Gu Tianxin glanced at him without saying a word, only nodding lightly to signal. The Taoist immortal's face stiffened, but he quickly realized and concealed it with a smile. Then he looked at the 3 people and arched his hand, saying, I don't know how to address the 3 seniors. Shi Huang, the Lord of Reincarnation. Heavenly Emperor. Chapter 7. The Emperor happened to be here, intending to preach to the heavens. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Once these three names come out, it brings a strong shock to the indigenous people in the world of Zhu Xian again. Such a name, truly dare to call. One louder than the other. Shi Huang, Lord of Reincarnation. And that young man, who looked like a god, actually claimed to be the Heavenly Emperor. Emperor of Heaven. It's too amazing. The disciples and elders of Qingyun's sect who were standing behind were unable to maintain peace and their hearts were trembling with fear. Even the heads of each peak, including Taoist Sangsong, Zheng Shuchang, Master Shueyue, and others, couldn't help but feel a palpitations in their hearts, with a hint of fear in their eyes. Upon hearing these words, the Taoist immortal's face changed. But after all, he is the leader of Qingyun's sect, with a good temperament, and he quickly calmed down. Immediately, a smile filled his face and he reached out his hand to lead the way. Please come into the hall and have a chat. Well, let's go. Immediately after, Gu Tianxin, Shi Huang, and the Lord of Reincarnation followed Qingyun Gate and others towards a side hall. Along the way, the mountains rise and fall, with deep and majestic horses. There are 7 towering peaks towering into the clouds, surrounding the entire Qingyun Gate. It must be the Qingyun 7 peaks. Soon, everyone arrived at the Dragon Head Peak, the head of the 7 peaks. Just as I stepped down, a low beep suddenly came from not far away. Take a close look. That is a towering and snow-white monster. It sensed the terrifying killing aura on the Stone Emperor and the Lord of Reincarnation, and instinctively let out a few low growls. A pair of agile beast pupils were filled with a warning tone. The many high-level officials of Qingyun Gate couldn't help but change their faces when they saw this. This is the Zhenshan spirit beast of their Qingyun Gate, named Lingzuan. The body is a water unicorn, which is an auspicious beast. Their cultivation level is even stronger than those of these various pulse heads. Born with a strange perception of sorcerer cultivators and those who create the great slayer. Lingzuan, this is our esteemed guest, please do not disturb us. Dao Xianjunren quickly spoke up to remind him. And the Lord of Reincarnation and the Stone Emperor on the side have already noticed it. Kiran. Shi Huang frowned, hesitated for a moment, and raised his hand. A terrifying force that seemed like a heavenly power descended in an instant. Without much effort, he grabbed the water qilin in his hand and stared at it. At this moment, the water qilin was extremely frightened, with all 4 legs kicking wildly in the void, but he could never break free from his constraints. Being a Taoist, under this crushing force, there is no place for it to be used. Lingzuan. Several leaders of Qingyun Gate exclaimed in shock upon seeing the situation. Just as I was about to step forward and stop, my footsteps suddenly hung in mid-air, unable to fall for a long time. Unfortunately, there is only a trace of the Qilin's bloodline, which is extremely complex. If it were a pure blood Qilin, it would be of some use to our emperor. Shi Huang spoke indifferently, feeling bored. With a wave of his hand, he withdrew his strength. The water qilin, like being granted amnesty, fled in a flash and dared not make any more sound. It just sensed an unparalleled sense of oppression from that person. It was as if facing a terrifying creature that was far beyond it in terms of life level, and even a trace of resistance could not be generated, with extreme fear. But the fact is indeed so. Shi Huang is the body of the Holy Spirit, born close. Even in the other universe, there are few races that can be compared. Not to mention in this low-level world of Zhu Xian. Lord Shi, I'm really sorry. This is the Zhenshan spirit beast from our sect. I don't understand the rules and have offended you. The Taoist immortal felt even more awe when he saw the terrifying power displayed by Emperor Shi unintentionally. Mighty as the Spirit Lord, he cannot move a single move in his hands. It seems that Tian Bai's message is not entirely false. These 3 people are all powerful outsiders with great background. Each possesses a terrifying force that can destroy heaven and earth. Shi Huang glanced at Dao Xianjunren without paying any attention. He has a solitary and proud personality, and has always been above expectations. Having walked through the distant ancient times, I never saw many people in my life. Apart from the past emperors and emperors, as well as the current heavenly emperor. All other creatures are ants. Keep going. Gu Tianxin didn't care about such a small incident, just spoke calmly. Yes. Dao Xianjunren responded. Soon. The crowd had already arrived at a side hall. The leader of Qingyun Gate, the heads of each peak, and Gu Tianxin, along with 3 others, successively took their seats. Gu Tianxin naturally sat in the main seat. In this regard, people's hearts are like a clear mirror. Powerful like the Lord of Reincarnation and the Stone Emperor, they will deliberately fall half a step when walking. Therefore, it is known that this mysterious young man is the leading figure among the 3, with absolute discourse power. Not long. Several young disciples of Qingyun sect presented rare spiritual tea one by one. Spiritual mist was steaming up on the table, interweaving with a refreshing aroma. At this point, we gradually got to the point. Dao Xian Immortal first exchanged glances with the other heads of Qingyun sect, then pondered for a few more breaths before speaking. Heavenly Emperor, I wonder why you came across the border. If there is anything I can do to help, from all over Qingyun sect, will definitely spare no effort and do my best to do it well. Gu Tianxin took a light sip of Ling Cha and found it tasteless. Putting down the tea cup, his deep gaze turned towards the crowd present and he slowly spoke. In your world, the Tao is shallow and the cultivators are weak. I happen to be here, intending to preach to the heavens. What do you think? Once this statement is made, the Taoist immortal and the head of Qingyun Gate present all showed a look of surprise on their faces. These extraordinary powers actually came to preach. This is a great celebration. After all, the strength of the 3 people in front of us is evident to everyone. It is completely different from the mainstream cultivation methods in mainland China. If you are willing to pass on the profound Taoist teachings, it is definitely a rare opportunity for Qingyun Gate and even the entire continent of China. The great righteousness of the Heavenly Emperor. If you are willing to preach here, it is truly a blessing for the people. How dare we have any objections? The Taoist immortal had a solemn expression and spoke solemnly. Since that's the case, then let's start with your Qingyun Gate. Gu Tianxin smiled calmly and ordered, immediately organize all the disciples in the sect and declare allegiance to the ancient heavenly court. Then, the emperor will use his great power to evolve the world projection, summon the 5 realms of beings from all over the world to worship together. Chapter 8. The Supreme Past, Scaring the Foolish Qingyun Sect. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Evolving the world projection with great magic power. There is such a means in this world. Upon hearing these words, Tian Bai, Master Shueyue, and others were once again amazed. At this moment, the Dao Xian immortal beside him listened and his eyes involuntarily flickered a few times. After hesitating for a moment, he slowly spoke up. The Heavenly Emperor may have been unaware of his arrival for the first time. In our world, there are many demonic sections. Those people, practicing magic skills, resort to any means to achieve their goals, often killing ordinary people and causing harm to the world. Moreover, there are bloodthirsty monsters and witches rampant in the northwest wilderness. There are 100,000 mountains in southern Xinjiang, and there are also animal gods and tigers who gaze at the central plains. If these people have learned the immortal technique of the upper realm, they will surely cause immortal slaughter and poison the world. Please think twice, Heavenly Emperor. Dao Xianjunren spoke with a righteous and passionate tone. Oh. Upon hearing these words, Gu Tianxin frowned slightly. Is this mysterious Qingyun sect trying to use its power to eradicate dissidents? The abacus is quite good. He just doesn't know. Gu Tianxin wouldn't care about the lives of these ants. The ultimate goal is only to make them believe in the ancient heavenly court and thus devour the origin of the world. As for those who believe in the heavenly court, whether they are righteous, evil, witches, or demons, they are no different. Zhu Xian, what is right and what is evil? Gu Tianxin lightly tapped on the table and looked at him with a smile on his face. The Taoist immortal's expression was stern, and he almost answered without thinking. Take the world's common people as our own responsibility, save the people from water and fire, act honestly and honestly throughout our lives, and that is the right path. Taking all things in the world as a cud dog, pursuing supreme power by any means, being cruel and cold-blooded, and killing innocent people is called a devil's way. Upon hearing this, Gu Tianxin shook his head and smiled. Immediately, he reached out and pointed to the Stone Emperor and the Reincarnation Lord sitting next to him, speaking calmly. Shi Huang, over 300,000 years ago, was invincible and reached the summit. In order to prolong their own lifespan, they launched 2 dark upheavals, destroying countless ancient stars and slaughtering billions of creatures. The Lord of Reincarnation, who preached over 500,000 years ago, still exists today. He has caused 3 dark upheavals, and the corpses that died in his hands cannot fit in your entire continent of China. As soon as this statement was spoken, all 4 were startled, directly startling the many high-level cultivators of Qingyun Gate. Slaying billions of creatures. What a terrifying heist is this? I'm afraid it's impossible to gather such a large number of people from their world and all 5 domains in the world. Compared to these 2 people, what the Ghost King sect, what the 10,000 Poison sect, can't even be considered a demon, it's not on the same level at all. The Stone Emperor and the Lord of Reincarnation heard the Heavenly Emperor talk about their past. His expression remained cold, his eyes so indifferent that there was no emotional fluctuation, as if he was talking about something unrelated. At this moment, the entire side hall is silent with yak. Tian Bai, Master Shueyue, Zhu Xian, and others all seem to be suffocated, with a chilling expression on their faces. The cultivators in your world have a lifespan of only a few hundred years and will die with just a snap of their fingers. If the years you have experienced are long enough, then all of this can be let go. What is right and wrong, what is 7 emotions and 6 desires, what is homeland sentiment, what is hatred and madness, are all given a smile. Only my way, eternal and immortal. Gu Tianxin's words are full of vicissitudes, and his eyes are profound, reflecting the terrifying scene of the universe's chaos beginning to bloom and all things reviving and withering. A statement aimed directly at the heart, almost wanting to make the eardrums burst. Even the Stone Emperor and the Reincarnation Lord on the side couldn't help but show a hint of awe on their faces when they heard such words. He truly deserves to be the current Heavenly Emperor. Undoubtedly, one's own path has been transformed into the imprint of the heavenly heart, and one can sit and observe the changing creatures of the ages. Such a state of mind is hard to find in the world. The road is full of vicissitudes, and time is merciless. What was once cared for and valued will be forgotten. Only my way is eternal. This is the invincible Tao heart of the strongest. Those ants may never understand. At this point, Gu Tianxin seemed to have lost interest and waved his hand at the Taoist immortal, saying, "There's no need to say more, go ahead and take action." The Taoist immortal was speechless and dared not have any disobedience. I can only obediently follow Gu Tianxin's instructions. Soon, the first members of Qingyun Gate who were present left one after another, and each returned to the mountain peak to gather their disciples. At this moment, the Lord of Reincarnation and the Stone Emperor on the side couldn't help but ask questions. Heavenly Emperor, what is the significance of educating the creatures here? If you want to cultivate a strong person, it's much better to choose any ancient life star. Upon hearing this, Gu Tianxin's eyes remained calm and composed, but he responded with a faint tone, "You will know in the future." The Lord of Reincarnation and Emperor Shi nodded thoughtfully, without further questioning. At the same time, The entire Qingyun gate feels like a major earthquake has occurred. The disciples, deacons, elders, and others from various peaks and veins were all gathered together in a huge square. "Dad, what exactly happened?" Tianlinger looked at the turbulent scene in front of her, always confused and couldn't help but ask after her. "Linger, don't ask too many questions. In a moment, if I ask you to kneel, then kneel. Don't make any unnecessary movements, okay?" Tianbai's expression was solemn and unprecedentedly solemn. "I got it." Tianlinger muttered, although somewhat reluctant. She also saw the seriousness of the matter and didn't say much. Soon, all the disciples of Qingyun Gate were gathered and stood on the square. The Taoist immortal, as well as the heads of each peak, stood at the forefront, all looking nervous, as if waiting for something. "Senior Sister Lu, is the heavenly emperor they are talking about really so powerful? Even the leader of the sect has to bow down for it." Lin Jingyu's gaze kept wandering around, and his face was still full of hesitation. In his eyes, Master Cangsong Daoist was already one of the most powerful in the world. And the leader of the sect is even better. What a powerful existence it is that can make the entire Qingyun Gate submit. "Lin Junior brother, be cautious." Lu Sueki scolded, her pretty face full of solemnity, and whispered, "Those people have unpredictable abilities, don't talk to yourself." Lin Jingyu fell into silence. "I don't know how long it has been." Gu Tianxin saw that the people from Qingyun Gate were almost there, and pointed slightly towards the sky. "Roaming. A scene that will be unforgettable for everyone in Qingyun Gate unfolds. I saw a big hand shining with gold, but as it plunged into the clouds, it tore open the entire sky. In the next moment, a towering figure with its back to all beings appeared on the sky, covering the 5 domains of the world and reflecting all corners." Chapter 9. The world shakes, 5 realms cultivators, come quickly. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The astonishing anomaly manifested above the sky. Being able to see all the creatures on the land of China. At this moment, the world boiled. So. What is that? What a powerful aura. Is it possible that a deity has descended? Countless cultivators looked up at the sky, lost in their wits, and their eyes were filled with an incredulous expression. Even with their years of cultivation experience, I have never seen such a grand scene before. It can be called a miracle. Central Plains, Fengxiang Valley. Shangguan Su, who returned from the mountains, and several elders. In a large hall, reporting what he saw and heard to Yunilan, the lord of the incense-burning valley. The strong members of the incense-burning valley were stunned and uncertain upon hearing this. If this matter had not been personally mentioned by Shangguan Su, they may even think that the person has some kind of madness and has seen illusions. And just when Yunilan wanted to continue questioning and understand the details, the huge commotion from outside suddenly interrupted his thoughts. What's going on? Yunilan frowned and immediately walked out with everyone to check. When they, like other disciples, saw the huge figure appearing above the sky, they were all shocked. Upon seeing this, Shangguan Su's pupils narrowed and he reached out to the sky, shouting in a deep voice, "Master Gu, that's who I'm talking about." What? There are really extraterrestrial powerhouses crossing the void. What terrifying power does he possess to use such means? A group of strong members of the incense-burning valley, as well as Yunilan, looked moved and their bodies involuntarily stiffened in place. At the same time, Tianyin Temple, one of the 3 major sects of the righteous path, has similar reactions. Master Pu Hong, as well as the other 2 great divine monks and countless monks, were stunned in the same place. Abbot. This person is the first of those 3 outsiders from the domain. These supernatural powers may be incomparable to the highest principles of our Buddhism, which are the Dharma forms of all beings. Pukong Baoxiang was solemn, with a solemn expression on his face. Deep and unfathomable. Master Pu Hong clasped his hands together, his robe shining brightly, and only uttered these 4 words. On the other side, on a ghostly and gloomy mountain range, the leader of the Ghost King's sect, thousands of people, 4 great envoys, and a young man dressed in a black robe with a cold temperament are gathered together, looking up at the sky. Several people also felt an immense shock in their hearts. Master, this is amazing. Who is this person sacred? Is it possible that he has ascended to immortality? A holy envoy, with a pale face and lips trembling uncontrollably. The Ghost King did not respond to his subordinates' inquiries. I just stared blankly at the huge phantom above the sky, feeling lost in thought. It's just a divine skill. Surprisingly able to penetrate the 5 domains of the world. It's simply unheard of. I'm afraid it's just a true divine means, that's all. What exactly happened on this land of China? Even his Ghost King's sect knows nothing. And when everyone was amazed, what nobody noticed was Zhang Xiaofan, who transformed into a ghostly and fierce figure, suddenly emitted a hint of energy in his dull pupils. Such a strong person must be a reclusive expert in the world. I'm afraid even the southern Xingyun beast god can't stand on his side. Maybe he has a way to save Biao. Zhang Xiaofan muttered to himself in his heart, excited beyond control. He has secretly vowed to find this person. And just as the phantom of the heavenly emperor shines in every corner of the world, the scene above the sky has once again expanded. Reflected the figures of everyone at Qingyun Gate. As the head of the sect, the Taoist immortal immediately led a group of elders and disciples to kneel down and shout in unison. We'll meet the heavenly emperor. We'll meet the heavenly emperor. A series of shouts echoed through, like a bell, shaking the heavens and earth. The cultivators from all over the 5 realms of the world were also shocked to see the surrender and kneeling ceremony of Qingyun Gate from that scene. Tianxin stood above the sky with his hands down, his hair fluttering and stained with divine radiance, like a true deity descending into the world, sacred and majestic, making it impossible to look directly at him. Immediately after, a magnificent voice echoed from all directions, sweeping across the world and clearly reaching everyone's ears. I am the Lord of the ancient heavenly court, known as the Heavenly Emperor. I came here to preach and educate sentient beings. Master of the 5 realms of the world, come and worship him now. As the words fell, the land of China is boiling again. Countless cultivators, with a look of ecstasy on their faces. Such a person, unexpectedly, came from across borders to preach. This is actually the great creation of billions of creatures on the land of China. Qingyun Gate. The heavenly emperor is at Qingyun Gate. Hurry up and follow me to worship. Someone shouted excitedly, raised their arms and set off immediately, wishing to fly to the central plains. For a moment, divine rainbows crisscrossed the land of China, and spiritual light galloped. The figures of countless cultivators rushed towards the direction of Qingyun Gate, overwhelming the sky and earth. Even the incense-burning valley, Tianxin Temple, Ghost King's sect, and 10,000 Poisons sect, these great sects, without exception, are all rushing forward like a tide. Ghost King, Poison God and other unparalleled masters, their faces full of fanaticism. This is a pursuit of supreme power. There are not many cultivators who can sit still and remain calm. Everyone hopes to learn that kind of immortal technique, standing tall on the sky and earth, and achieving eternal immortality. As for those mortals who cannot fly and rush to distant journeys, they kneel down in place and kowtow repeatedly. Although they do not understand cultivation. But most people have heard of the name Qingyun Gate. Even the first major sect of the righteous path bows down and pays homage to the heavenly emperor. That is definitely a deity from the current world descending to earth. Countless mortals knelt and kowtowed, shouting, "Long live the heavenly emperor," in their mouths. Even some children aged 3 or 5 are brought over by their parents to pay a great gift to the heavenly emperor, hoping to be blessed with some good fortune. For a moment, in Tianxin's sea of consciousness, the system prompts the sound continuously. The faith level of the creatures in this world is starting to crazily climb. Ding, congratulations to the host. The belief level in the world of Zhu Xian has reached 10%. Ding, congratulations to the host. The belief level in the world of Zhu Xian has reached 20%. Ding, congratulations to the host. The belief level in the world of Zhu Xian has reached 50%. Upon hearing this, Tianxin lifted a faint smile from the corner of his mouth. By further increasing by 20%, we can begin to devour the essence of the world. After preaching, I believe we can achieve it. It won't take too long. Chapter 10. Step by step, Kowtow, only to see this throne. You are listening at novelfull.audio. For a moment, the entire continent of China was completely boiling. The sky and earth were densely packed with the figures of cultivators. Those who can fly, wield flying swords and magical tools, and soar into the air. Those who cannot fly, ride exotic beasts, or run on foot, as if thousands of troops and horses are galloping, the land is booming, the mountains and rivers are shaking, and the scene is grand. Of course, not all the strong in this realm will obey. At least, the 100,000 mountains in southern Xinjiang remain calm, with no demon beasts coming to the central plains to worship. Master, are we really not going? The speaker was a large tiger-like monster, standing at a height of 5 or 6 zhang. The animal's body was colorful, and its teeth and claws emitted a cold light, exuding a demonic aura. He is one of the 13 demon kings in southern Xinjiang, Chu. Along with him, there are also great demons such as the white-bone demon snake and the Shura bird. At this moment, in the ancient valley of Zhenmo, in front of the digital demon king stood a handsome and seductive young man dressed in bright silk clothes. His body was as tall as 10 zhang, and his whole body was pitch black as ink. The muscles on his massive body were curled up, and when combined with that face, it looked out of place. Something that came out of nowhere. Mastering a divine ability that can reflect the world, one dares to call themselves the Heavenly Emperor. His tone is really impressive. The beast god sneered and his handsome face was filled with disdain. Immediately, his bloodthirsty eyes turned to several demon kings and said coldly, I am the god of beasts, the god of all beasts. The demon tribe in southern Xinjiang worships me as a deity, why worship that heavenly emperor? When I have leisure time, I will personally go to the central plains, slaughter him, and crush the fantasies of the lowly human race. Upon hearing these words, several demon kings trembled with fear and dared not refute them. Immediately, he quickly knelt down on his massive demon body and let out a low roar. Beast gods have boundless life and invincibility in the world. Ha ha ha. The beast god laughed wildly, his voice raging for thousands of miles, echoing through the mountains. For half a month in a row, there were cultivators from various domains rushing to Qingyun Gate, which had already surrounded this place tightly. Countless people looked up with hopeful eyes, hoping to catch a glimpse of the true nature of the heavenly emperor. But now there are too many people gathered here, not big sects like Burning Incense Valley or Tianxin Temple, they can't squeeze to the front, they can only watch from a distance. At this moment, those world.renowned demon sects are also gathered here. Ghost King Sect, 10,000 Poisons Sect, Changxing Hall, Hehuan Sect, Blood Refining Hall, Blackstone Cave, and so on. Their respective leaders, each leading their strong men, are eyeing fiercely outside the Qingyun Mountain Gate. If unrelated people meet, I might even think that another battle between the righteous and demonic has begun. However, since ancient times, there has been a balance between good and evil. With the arrival of one magical giant, the disciples and elders of the three main orthodox sects, Qingyun Gate, Incense Burning Valley, and Tianxin Temple, are all on standby with a look of malice on their faces. If it weren't for fear of disturbing the heavenly emperor, Zhu Xian Immortal may have already been unable to restrain his killing intent in his heart. He wants to summon the immortal slaying sword and kill all the demon cubs here. And at this moment, in the team of the Ghost King sect, many disciples suddenly gave way to a passage. The next moment, I saw a young man in a black robe with a cold temperament slowly walking out. He carried a blue jade coffin on his back, emitting an astonishing chill. He completely ignored the hostility of many righteous strongmen present and walked towards the Qingyun gate. That's the ghost spirit of the Ghost King sect. What is he going to do? Is it difficult? Do you want someone to break into the Qingyun gate? The countless cultivators present had a fixed gaze. The name of Geely, cold and bloodthirsty, cruel and ruthless, has already spread throughout the north and south of the country in these 10 years, and is feared by many cultivators. However, it is said that he was once a disciple of Qingyun sect. After experiencing a battle between the righteous and demonic, his personality suddenly changed and he defected from the Qingyun sect and joined the Ghost King sect. Now, carrying a jade coffin on his back, he appears alone, probably for some reason. And at this point, the disciples and elders of Qingyun gate also noticed the young man walking towards their mountain gate. Many people, with complex expressions on their faces and a soft sigh, did not have much hostility in their eyes. "Dad, it's Xiaofan, he's here." Tian Linger's heart trembled and she couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. Su Ru and Tian Bai on the side quickly stopped her with their eyes, and then looked at the figure not far away with a gloomy expression. This child is still persistent in the past. Unfortunately, the righteous and demonic are not at odds and can never go back. Junior brother Xiaofan. Lu Sueki lightly covered her red lips and let out a dreamy murmur, her hand holding the Tianya sword trembling slightly. She didn't know how to deal with such a scene. The leader of Qingyun gate, Dao Xianzhenren, saw him walking with his coffin on his back, his eyes remained indifferent, and he stared at him coldly without any movement. At this moment, Zhang Xiaofan's heart was like a rock, his gaze calm and firm. He ignored everyone present and just walked forward from ancient times. Soon, Zhang Xiaofan arrived at the mountain gate. In the next moment, in front of everyone's eyes, he knelt down on the spot, then lowered his head and kowtowed. This action shocked countless cultivators surrounding Qingyun gate, not knowing what he was going to do. Then, Zhang Xiaofan stood up with his coffin on his back, took another step, knelt down again, kowtowed, and had an unprecedented resolute expression in his eyes. In this way, amidst the astonished gazes of everyone, Zhang Xiaofan kowtowed step by step and slowly walked into the Qingyun gate. And those who knew the reason behind the matter at Qingyun gate had also roughly guessed what he was asking for in his heart. No one stepped forward to stop him, just watching him step by step as he walked in. At this moment, sitting in a high position, Gu Tianxin had no expression on his face and deep eyes. He had already noticed the young man walking towards him with a coffin on his back. He hardly needs to guess who the visitor is. Just like what was written in the original work, it was full of infatuation. Gu Tianxin raised a curve at the corner of his mouth and casually played with his fingers. This action suddenly reminded him of a passage, and he muttered in his mouth. "Pilgrims, devout and sincere. Coming from the other side of the mountain, bowing step by step, just to meet my seat.